Most people would drag this door to the skip, deep cracks running through the panels, the finish peeling away in sheets, one corner soft with rot. A joiner would charge you close to 200 pounds to replace it, but what you're looking at right now cost me less than a $5 to bring back to life. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to do the same thing to your own door, whether it's on a wardrobe, a shed, or the front of your house. I found this particular door around the back of a client's cottage in the Cotswolds, leaning against a wall, half forgotten. It had been pulled off an old pantry years ago and left outside through a couple of British winters. Rain, frost, damp. That combination is brutal on timber, and it shows. But here's the thing I want you to understand before we even pick up a tool. Almost none of this damage means the door is finished. It just means the door needs attention. Let's talk about why doors end up like this in the first place, because understanding the cause is half the battle when it comes to fixing the problem properly. Wood is not a dead material. Even after it's been cut, planed, and turned into a door, it keeps breathing. It absorbs moisture from the air when it's damp outside, and it releases that moisture when the air turns dry. Every single time that happens, the timber expands and contracts ever so slightly. Do that thousands of times over years, especially with the kind of unpredictable weather we get here in the UK, soaking wet one week, bone dry with the heating cranked up the next, and the wood starts to move unevenly. That movement is where cracks are born. Add in a bit of sun exposure on an external door, which dries out the surface fibers faster than the wood underneath, and you get splitting. Add in poor drainage at the bottom of the door, where rainwater collects and soaks in, and you get rot. Add a few decades of use, hands touching the same spot near the handle, feet occasionally knocking the base, and you get worn finish, scuffed paint, and loose joints where the frame has been racked back and forth one too many times. Now, here's why most people replace the door instead of repairing it. Two reasons, really. First, they don't know it's fixable. A deep crack looks catastrophic if you've never dealt with wood before. It looks like structural failure. Second, and I think this is the bigger one, they don't know where to start. Restoration feels like a specialist trade, something you need years of training for. I'm going to take that fear away from you today, because in reality, 90% of the damage you'll see on a wooden door falls into a handful of predictable categories, and every single one of them has a proven, repeatable fix. Inspecting the damage properly. Before you touch a single tool, you need to walk around the door slowly and actually diagnose what you're dealing with. Rushing this step is the single biggest mistake beginners make, because if you don't understand what caused the damage, you'll end up repairing the symptom and not the source, and the problem will simply come back in a year or two. Cracks. Run your fingers along the panel surfaces and the rails. That's the horizontal pieces of the door frame. A hairline crack is usually just surface movement in the grain and is mostly cosmetic. A crack you can slide a piece of paper into is more serious. That's a genuine split in the timber and needs to be properly filled or bonded, not just painted over. Loose joints. Doors are built from separate pieces. Stiles, rails, and panels joined together, traditionally with mortise and tenon joints and wood glue. Over time, that glue can dry out and fail. Give the door a gentle wiggle at the corners. If you feel any movement or hear a faint creak, you've got a loose joint, and it needs re-gluing before you do anything cosmetic, because no amount of paint will hold a structural joint together. Missing wood. Sometimes chunks have simply broken away, often at corners, edges, or around old hardware holes. You'll need to rebuild that section rather than just fill it. Water damage and rot. This is the one people panic about most, but don't. Press firmly into any dark, discolored, or swollen area with a flathead screwdriver. If it's solid, that's just staining, and a good clean and reseal will sort it. If the screwdriver sinks in with little resistance, that's active rot, and the soft material needs to be dug out completely before repair, because sealing over active rot just traps the moisture in and lets it keep spreading underneath your beautiful new finish. Paint and finish damage. Peeling, flaking, or alligator cracked paint is common on older doors, especially ones that have been outside. It looks dramatic, but it's honestly one of the easiest problems on this list to solve. Scratches and surface wear. Usually just cosmetic, caused by daily contact. These will practically disappear during sanding. Broken or loose panels. The flat to center sections of paneled doors sit in a groove and are designed to float slightly, allowing for movement. Sometimes they crack along the grain or work themselves loose from that groove. Take a mental note, or better yet, a written one, of every issue you find. On my Cotswold door, I had 2 long cracks through the top rail, one section of soft rot at the bottom corner, several loose joints, and paint that was flaking off in curls. A fairly typical combination, honestly. Here's where the $5 promise becomes real, because almost everything on this list you already own or can source for next to nothing. For tools, a scraper or old chisel, 80, a 120 and 220 grit sandpaper or a sanding block, A putty knife, a small paintbrush, a clean cloth, and clamps if you have them. Though string or an old belt will do in a pinch. For materials, wood glue, either a 2-part epoxy or a good quality wood filler, some fine wood flour or sawdust if you're making your own filler, wood stain, and a sealant like boiled linseed oil, Danish oil, or varnish, depending on the look you want. Realistically, if you already do any DIY around the house, you probably have sandpaper and glue sitting in a drawer somewhere. The epoxy, or filler, is usually the only purchase, and a small tube from a hardware shop costs a few pounds and will last you through several projects, which is exactly how we get this whole job done for under a $5. Every restoration starts the same way, with a proper clean. Wipe the entire door down with a damp cloth to remove loose dust, cobwebs, and dirt. If there's built-up grime, particularly around the handle area, a mild solution of warm water and washing up liquid will lift it without damaging the timber underneath. Let the door dry completely before moving on. This matters more than people think, because sanding over a dirty surface just grinds dirt into the wood grain, and gluing onto a damp surface is one of the fastest ways to get a joint that fails again in a few months. Next, we need to get down to bare, honest timber. Using your scraper, work in the direction of the grain to lift away any flaking paint or varnish. Don't force it. If the old finish is stubborn, that's a job for sanding rather than scraping. Take your time here. This step is where you start to really see the door underneath all those years of wear. And honestly, it's one of the most satisfying parts of the whole process. A quick safety note. If you suspect the door might be old enough to have lead-based paint, generally anything painted before the 1960s, wear a proper dust mask and avoid dry sanding it aggressively. Wet sanding or using a chemical stripper is the safer route in that situation. Sanding is where a tired old door starts looking like a project worth finishing. Start with 80 grit paper to knock down any rough patches, remaining finish, and uneven areas. Then move to 120 grit to smooth things further and finish with 220 grit for a silky surface that will take stain evenly. Always sand with the grain, never against it. Sanding across the grain leaves scratches that show up glaringly once you apply a finish. Here's a professional trick. After your final sanding pass, wipe the whole surface with a slightly damp cloth. This raises the tiny wood fibers that sanding pushes flat, and once they're dry, give it one more light pass with a 220 grit. That extra step is the difference between a finish that looks handmade and one that looks genuinely professional. Now we get to the heart of the job. For a hairline crack, a simple wood filler pressed in with a putty knife, left to cure, then sanded flush, does the trick perfectly. For a deeper crack, the kind you could slide paper into, I want you to use wood glue instead of filler wherever possible, because glue actually bonds the wood fibers back together and restores real strength, whereas filler is purely cosmetic. Work the glue into the crack using a thin scrap of card or a small brush, pushing it as deep into the split as you can. Then clamp the crack closed. If you don't have clamps, wrap a strap or an old belt around the section and tighten it, or use masking tape pulled tight across the crack in several directions. Leave it to dry for the time stated on your glue bottle, usually somewhere between 24 and 48 hours for a full cure, even if it feels dry to the touch sooner. For wider gaps where the wood has actually separated or where a chunk is missing, this is where epoxy earns its reputation. Wood filler is fine for shallow cosmetic gaps, but it doesn't have real structural strength and it can shrink slightly as it cures. Epoxy, on the other hand, actually bonds to the timber and hardens into something nearly as strong as the wood itself. So, as a simple rule, shallow and cosmetic, use filler. Deep, structural or load-bearing, use epoxy. For any area where wood is genuinely missing, a chipped corner, an old screw hole, a chunk knocked out of an edge, mix your epoxy or filler and build it up in thin layers rather than one thick blob. Thin layers cure more evenly and are far less likely to crack or sink later. Overfill very slightly because you'll be sanding it flush once it's cured, and it's much easier to sand excess down than to add more material to a low spot. If you found any loose joints during your inspection, this step cannot be skipped no matter how tempting it is to just move on to the pretty finishing work. Gently work the joint apart as far as it will comfortably go without forcing it. You're not trying to fully disassemble the door, just open the joint enough to get glue inside. Clean out any old, crumbling glue with a small brush or an old toothbrush. Apply fresh wood glue generously into the joint, push it back together, and clamp it firmly until dry. This is genuinely the step that determines whether your restoration lasts 5 years or 15. A beautiful finish on top of a wobbly, poorly glued frame is only ever a short-term fix. If you found soft, spongy wood during your inspection, dig it out completely using a chisel or a flathead screwdriver until you reach solid, healthy timber all around the edges of the damaged area. You should hear a solid sound and feel firm resistance when you tap it. Let that area dry out fully if there's any dampness. Then treat it with a wood hardener if you have one, which strengthens the surrounding fibers before filling the cavity with epoxy in the same thin layer method we used for missing wood. Once cured, sand it flush. The common mistake here is filling over rot without removing all of it. Rot spreads, and trapped moisture underneath a filled and painted surface will simply rot further, hidden from view, until the problem resurfaces somewhere new. A little patience at this stage saves you a much bigger repair down the line. Once every repair has cured and been sanded flush and smooth, wipe away all dust with a clean, slightly damp cloth. Now it's time to bring back some color and character. Apply your wood stain with a brush or a cloth, working in the direction of the grain, in thin, even coats. Wipe away any excess after a few minutes rather than letting it pool, which prevents blotchy patches. Here's a tip that makes a real difference. Test your stain on an offcut or a hidden section of the door first. Repaired areas, particularly ones filled with epoxy, can sometimes absorb stain slightly differently than the surrounding original wood, since they're not quite the same material. Testing first means no unpleasant surprises on the finished door. Once your stain is fully dried, it's time to protect all of that work with a proper sealant. For doors that live indoors, Danish oil or a clear varnish gives lovely protection and a warm finish. For anything exposed outdoors, you'll want a proper exterior varnish or paint system, ideally with UV protection built in, since sunlight is one of the biggest long-term enemies of exterior timber. Apply thin coats, allowing full drying time between each one, and lightly sand with a fine 320 grit paper between coats for the smoothest possible result. 2 to 3 coats is generally the sweet spot, enough for real protection without the finish, looking thick or plasticky. Once your final coat has cured, buff the surface gently with a soft, clean cloth. This brings up a lovely natural sheen and removes any remaining dust particles sitting on the surface. Stand back and take a proper look at what you've done. A few things I've picked up over the years that will genuinely help your results last. Always choose the correct glue for the job. PVA wood glue is excellent for interior joints and general repairs. For anything exposed to moisture or the outdoors, look for a waterproof exterior rated wood glue instead. Otherwise, your repair will fail again within a season or two. On the epoxy versus filler question, remember the simple rule from earlier. Shallow and cosmetic gets filler, deep and structural gets epoxy. When in doubt, epoxy is the stronger, more durable choice, though it costs slightly more and takes a bit more skill to shape and sand smooth. For sanding grit, always work your way up progressively, rather than jumping straight to a fine grit. Coarse, then medium, then fine. Skipping steps leaves deeper scratches that a finer paper simply won't remove on its own. For finishes, oil-based products like Danish or teak oil tend to suit interior furniture beautifully, bringing out rich grain and color. Exterior doors need something with proper weather resistance, quality exterior varnish, or breathable exterior wood paint. And on prevention, a little maintenance goes a long way. Reapplying oil or varnish every year or two on exterior timber, keeping the bottom edge of doors clear of standing water, and simply wiping doors down occasionally to remove grime will keep your restored door looking this good for years to come, rather than needing another full restoration down the line. Take a moment to picture where we started. A door with deep cracks running through the top rail, a soft, rotten corner, joints that wobbled at the slightest touch, and paint peeling away in curling strips. It genuinely looked like something destined for the skip. Now picture the same door, cracks invisibly bonded and filled, that rotten corner solid and rebuilt, every joint tight and silent, the surface sanded smooth as glass, and a rich stain bringing the grain to life under a soft, protective sheen. Run your hand across it now, and you'd never guess it had been sitting in a garden, forgotten, weathering through British winters for years. That's not luck, and it's not magic. That's understanding what wood actually needs, and giving it exactly that, one deliberate step at a time. So there you have it. A door that most people would have thrown away, fully restored using a handful of basic tools, a little patience, and materials that cost less than a takeaway coffee. This is the heart of what wood restoration is really about. It's not about having a workshop full of expensive equipment. It's about understanding the material, respecting what caused the damage, and working through each repair properly rather than rushing to cover it up. Whether it's a door, a chair, a table, or a piece of antique furniture that's been passed down through your family, the same principles apply every single time. Inspect properly, diagnose the real problem, repair it at the source, and finish it with care. If you enjoyed watching this old door come back to life, subscribe to Timbermaster UK for more restoration projects every week, where we take on furniture and timber that everyone else has given up on. If you enjoyed watching this old door come back to life, hit subscribe and join the Timbermaster UK community for more restoration projects every week. Drop a comment below telling me what piece of furniture in your own home could use a second chance. I read every single one, and it might just be the next project you see on this channel.